My name is Bridget White, and I've been studying the Bible for nearly 20 years, and my interest lies in prophecy and how we can relate it to the political systems throughout the world today.
Well, yeah, I studied law at Cambridge, and like Bridget, I've read the Bible every day for 20 years, and think that I've been able to use the analytical and logical skills that I learned in law to understand the Bible, which I believe I do now.
Yep.
Yeah, well, as the uninitiated might not know, you get a BA in law, and at Cambridge, if you wait 3 years and pay £5, they upgrade it to an MA. No, I got a BA. Yes, there will be a Third World War. It's prophesied in the book of Zechariah that there's going to be a nuclear war. 3,000 years ago, he said that people's eyes would burn up in their sockets and their tongues in their mouths, which is the symptoms of a nuclear war. And it's said that in Zechariah that God will bring all nations against Jerusalem, which will be such a heavy burden that no one will be able to carry it. And then when they all begin to attack Jerusalem and Israel and the saints, the Christians, Jesus will return and will defeat them in a nuclear war.
Yes, this is going to be a very conflicting time ahead, and I believe the church should be making people familiar with the conflict in Israel and the Jewish situation, and also teaching people that, you know, there is an end of these times coming, and people need to prepare themselves for the end times by searching their hearts and souls, you know, knowing which way they're going to go, because it will happen and we can't stop it. So the church has a big responsibility, you know, apart from the state, you know, not to get locked into political things, but to get people prepared for a time when the whole world will be just upside down and they won't know which way to turn. Well, the Jews have been sort of put out for the moment until the fullness of the Gentiles, which is all us. And there's going to come a time when God's going to bring the Jews back in, but that won't be until the end. So in the meantime, there are some Jews who accept Jesus as the Messiah, and we call them Messianic Jews. But the main part of the Jewish nation do not believe that Jesus has come. They're still waiting for him to come, when in actual fact he's been gone and is coming back again.
It's in 1 Corinthians, it says about the fact that the fullness of the Jews will not come in until all the Gentiles have come in, yeah. Well, yeah, as regards Bilderberger, etc., we'll I think, move on to that in subsequent questions. But yes, there are very definite prophecies in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, regarding Europe. You may have heard of the phrase, "Oh, he had feet of clay." Well, that comes from a vision that Daniel had. And he saw this king with feet of clay and iron mixed. And that was an empire with 10 toes, represents a kingdom with a large number of kings in it. It's Europe. It's thought to be Europe. Now those feet are made partly of iron, which is very strong, which I believe means things like the legislative processes in Europe, which are very strong, their directives, fishing policy, CAP, etc. And also clay, which is very weak. Now, what do we think clay is? Bridget and I think that the euro is definitely part of the clay. It is destroying the European Union. It is a totally, in my view, idiotic thing that cannot work. Basically, using my economics A-level, it stops a country like Greece from devaluing its currency, so it can't possibly compete. It's like a metal blanket which can't bend when people's feet go up or something under it. So I think that it is either going to have to be abolished, this euro, or it's going to destroy the European Union. And in fact, the latter may be the case, because the Bible does go on to say that the European this kingdom of 10 toes is going to end. Well, yeah. Daniel goes on straight after his European prophecy to prophesy that there's going to be a world leader eventually, who's called the Antichrist or the Beast, Many of today's movements like the UN, UNESCO, IMF, World Bank, etc., and more less well-known things like the Bilderberg Group or the Council of Foreign Relations, CFR and stuff, are moving towards world leadership, one world government. Now this man is described, the Antichrist, as the name says, is anti-Jesus. Going into the nature of the Antichrist, he's going to reign for 7 years. Now, how does he get his position? It's going to be, the Bible says, through deception and flatteries. He's going to come across as a really lovely guy who's going to solve all our problems. But it says that halfway through his reign, after 3.5 years, he's going to turn and he's going to show his true colours, and he's going to make war against God's people and will kill many. Yeah, it was written in the Jewish Bible, and it's talking about Jewish Christians. I think they're going to be, as Bridget said, the Messianic Jews. Yeah, it's talking about the saints. He's called the Prince of Peace, preached that we live in peace and love, that we turn the other cheek, etc. And he quite categorically said that the bearing of arms, weapons, is not his will. No, he's against killing of all people. Well, it's prophesied in the book of Ezekiel that the Jews are going to rebuild the temple that was destroyed in AD 70 by the Romans. And we watched a video a good 10 years ago where this rabbi from Jerusalem was interviewed by a Christian, and they were then making all the candlesticks, all the plates, or all the spoons, everything that was needed to go in this new temple that's going to be built. Now, this temple, as Bridget is going to be built, and the Antichrist is going to go there, as Bridget was saying, and he's actually going to set himself up to be God.
Yes, it does say in the Bible that there will be a peace treaty, so we could very well, although I'm not sure, be moving into that very dangerous time between Israel and the Middle East, in which that treaty would be put in order, but it will only be a small, short time, 3.5 years, in which they'll all say we've got peace, but it will follow war.
Well, I'll tell you what else we found out on this video. Well, the Jews are going to build the third temple, right? That's prophesied. Guess where they're planning to build it? Yeah, the Dome on the Rock, which is the site where Solomon's temple was. Now, that Dome of the Rock is the third most religious site of the Muslims after Mecca and Medina. Now, guess what's going to happen if the Jews decide to build their temple on the Muslims' holy site?
Yes, definitely that could trigger off a massive, conflict between Israel and the Arab nation.
Well, as I said, we watched the video 10 years ago. It was probably 3 or 4 years old, so it's looking 14 years ago, and they were already well into the manufacture of all the implements that are going to go in this temple. We saw pictures. We saw all these gold implements, which are replacing the ones which God commanded Solomon to build originally. So yeah, they're well on the way, and they're preparing for it. I mean, it's in a video that's easy to find. I think it was called The Stones Which Cry Out.
It's been prophesied, and it's going to happen whatever we do, except that we can, give our lives over to God and go the right way and end up in the right place. Otherwise, it's going to be the end of the old age, in which there's been conflict and fighting, and man has sought to find solutions to the problems, has not found them, keeps fighting and killing each other. So God's going to come in, and he's going to do it his way. Many
people have heard of Armageddon. I think there's a film about it as well, or Apocalypse or something. Now, Armageddon is the final battle. It's a place in Israel. It's in the plain of Megiddo, which is a massive, great plain, and we've seen photos of it. And people are going to come against Jesus, come against the people of God, Christians, saints, and says Jesus will come back and he will make war and destroy them. And it says, for example, that the blood will rise up to the level of horses' bridles. It's going to be a massive, terrible thing. But after that, there's good news called the millennium. Yeah, it's prophesied in Revelation. It's also in Zechariah. As I said, the actual physical symptoms of a real nuclear war are described by the prophet Zechariah well before nuclear wars were known about.
Yes, I believe that there's not going to be any peace in the Middle East until the final conflict, which is in Armageddon. It will continue. Men will not find peace unless for those 3.5 years in which it will look like we have peace, but at the end of that we haven't. It'll still be Armageddon, because we're going to go through the end times, and we're going to move into a new time in which after it's all over, which will take I don't know how long, but the whole world will be changed as we know it now. For us, it'll be changed forever as we know it now. Yes, after physical war, it'll be totally changed forever. If there's nuclear arms in the most dangerous part of the world, and there's every sense that they will be used.
Bridget said, I think you asked, how can people escape? Well, the only way is to turn to Jesus, to turn to God, to become a Christian, to get saved, to get a place in heaven. I mean, that's what it's about. We're only here for 70 odd years. Eternity lasts forever. There is going to be a war, and the best thing is to make sure you're going to heaven.
Yes, it's going to occur because man will not live in peace together. They will continue to conflict and continue to fight and kill each other with violence and shed blood until God actually brings an end to it all, which will be nuclear war, we believe. And we can see, you know, in the Bible clearly it says that it will be a nuclear war. You know, people's eye sockets will be burnt out, and it's clear to us that is what's going to happen to bring about the end of the systems in the world today. It won't. It will end, because as sure as anything, man will press that button. That is going to happen.
There's going to be.
It's going to be every country in the world, the Bible says, is going to be arrayed against Israel. Every single country is going to turn against Israel, and God is going to bring them there, and then he's going to defeat his enemies. God says, "For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle." And then it says in verse 3, "Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations as he fought in the day of battle." Well, there's a great passage in the Bible which talks about the millennium, which is 1,000-year reign of Christ on this earth, a time of peace. And it says, as you probably have heard, the lion will lie down with the lamb, and the child will put his hand in the adder's den. So it's going to be a period of peace between animals, and a period of peace between animals and man. Now, my interpretation of that is that it will probably be a time of veganism, probably not even riding horses or anything like beasts of burden. It's going to be a lovely period, and I'm sure God will heal this land from the climate change problems we've got to the results of a nuclear battle, as you say. It'll be a time when God will heal, and as Bridget said, the people who are still alive, the survivors of the war, you know, the children and the women will worship God in Jerusalem.
God doesn't change his mind, and it states in the Bible that there will be that type of war at the end. But the years to follow, when Jesus sets up office in Jerusalem, will be peaceful years in which I believe everyone will come to accept God for who he is, and there won't be any more systems in the world, capitalism or anything else. That'll all be abolished, finished. Yeah. And there won't be any religions or anything left. It'll all be just God and his office in Jerusalem, and the world will be saved. Yes, it's run for about 1,000 years, and there is plans beyond this, but I think that's the most important time, is when people are going to have an extra chance to get to know who God is and to live in a peaceful world without any climate problems or anything for 1,000 years.
Yeah, the source of the millennium is Revelation 20, or is it 21? Yeah, 20, there we are. It says that he will reign for 1,000 years, and the people who are going to live there then are the people who are already living, and also the martyrs of Christ are going to rise from the dead and reign there as well.
God will send back all the people that's died, that's been slain for his sake, and the world will be preached to, and everyone will be saved.